What's going on, guys? This is Victor here, and I want to talk about my past life regression experience I just had yesterday. Now, many of you, well, I suppose if you're watching this, you probably have somewhat of an idea of what a past life regression is. It's basically where someone guides you back consciously to some past lives that usually are relevant in this life, meaning they oftentimes, and I kind of knew this, but now I have more of a experiential proof. Former lives or parallel lives, however you wish to look at it, other lives you had essentially. Oftentimes, if you experience something traumatic or something of great impact to you, it leaves like a scar or an imprint that, if not resolved in that lifetime, continues to play itself out in future lifetimes until it's resolved completely. And what I found with this past life regression was that it was a very accelerated way to deal with these things. It's really miraculous because I was able to really let go of these dense energies, this dark energy of the past that I've just been carrying with me, perhaps for many lifetimes, and all in the matter of an hour or so, I was able to let go some of the most prominent conflicts I've had within my own being, and again, in the matter of an hour or so. And it was truly remarkable. And it wasn't really as, it wasn't what I expected. It was much more simple. And I'm of the impression that almost anyone can do this themselves, even without having a guide. A guide helped. It was very helpful. But really it's just kind of choosing to use your imagination with a little bit of intent, and then letting go enough of the logical mind and reasoning to allow it to unfold in a way that, as it builds steam and momentum, more and more of the picture just kind of starts to come in more and more freely to where you can start to draw conclusions. And every life I went back to was incredibly relevant and brought with it a potent and relevant message, or the releasing of a blockage, some kind of emotional trauma. So it's not super important where my lives were, although one of them that you might find interesting that I'm hesitant to share because it might dissuade some of you, but I think you're going to find this becoming more and more common. People are going to start talking about this, but one of my past lives was that of an extraterrestrial. And I had a memory of it, and I was able to kind of re-experience what it feels like to be them and where I came from, at least in one of the lives. I'm sure many of you come from cool places too. I'm just telling you my experience, but it was just a better place, meaning that they were more evolved. They were more of an evolved species, and at a much higher vibration, and I got to experience that actually, even in this physical body, the freedom, the ability just to kind of fly and float around, all these negative and dense, these complex, darker emotions that we experience on a day-to-day basis, like fear, anxiety, sadness. All those things didn't really exist. They weren't there. Zero. I could not detect a single iota of anything like that in my whole being. It felt very free and light and one with everything, very enlightened and high vibration, full of just, it felt really good, man. It felt really comforting. And again, it was a very productive experience. I got to really, there are some things that I've been really carrying around in this present life a lot that had a very strong impact on me that I was able to let go of almost instantly as these epiphanies and resolutions came from viewing my current situation from a whole nother, it broadens the perspective. You get to see the origin of this trauma, this pain, this anxiety that you carry around. And then in this new perspective, you, by definition, instantly, you get to see it differently and therefore draw new conclusions, which for me resulted in very quick resolutions of these situations. And also some things I've experienced, like for example, one of them, just real quick, I'll tell you a story. I had this amazing dog. He was a pit bull terrier. I was younger at the time, like 20 years old, and he was just this gorgeous, beautiful pit bull, And many people talk shit up. Oh, you have a pit bull, they're dangerous, and I didn't think so. Even though I knew that they had this power and this potential for aggression, he was so amazingly sweet and loving towards me and my family. He was just the coolest dog. Everyone knew him. Everybody would be very anxious to see him because he was such a neat dog, this crazy big dog. But eventually he randomly, seemingly out of the blue, just snapped and attacked my little daughter. And fortunately my wife was able to remove him before any real damage was done, but it was a very, very traumatic experience. I had him for like 5 years, so I was very, very bonded with him. I spent a lot of money and put a lot of time into training him properly because I wanted to be so desperately a responsible pit bull owner. And I'm not saying this to say that pit bulls are bad. I still love the breed, man. But it was just it didn't add up. I really believe everything has a purpose, and that seemed to me just some kind of pointless, awful tragedy because I had to put him down. He was my beloved pet, and I had to put him down. There was no question about it. I couldn't have a dangerous animal around my little kid or wife or anybody, really. It was just it'd be irresponsible on my part to do that. But going back into a past life, I was able to see exactly why that happened. Apparently in a past life I had the same soul, his name was Maynard, the same soul in a dog, and it was this crazy, ugly, vicious dog, and I had a bunch of them, and they were all super mean and aggressive and just wanted to kill everybody basically, but they were so nice and docile to me. And at the time in this previous life, it was just so neat for me to it was just such a cool thing to me. It was just like more like the novelty of it, just having this crazy dog that was just that like me. I just felt good about that. But in this life, it played out, and I was able to realize that there was a danger in having these polar opposites. They don't necessarily equate to a very stable being. The pit bull terrier being so aggressive on one side and then so awesome and loving and benevolent on another side. It's a challenge for them to be consistently either one. And it just takes one little mishap for a horrible and potentially disastrous situation to unfold. But anyway, yeah. So I made peace with that. I was like mad at God, mad at my higher self, mad at my soul for coming and experiencing such an awful thing. But then now I realized that it was kind of a product of my own doing, and I was able to resolve it, just seeing it from that different perspective. Cleared things up tremendously for me. I don't have any resentment for the situation any longer, or sadness or anything. In fact, I have another dog, a new one named Axel. I don't know where he's at, but it's like the same soul. I know it sounds wacky to some of you, but I can tell it is. And some of you guys are pretty intuitive people, and you probably have experienced that perhaps when you lose a loved one and then they happen to come back in a different form, pretty quickly after they had been deceased. But yes, there's tremendous power and benefit to the past life regression, and what I want to make note of is now that I've experienced it, I don't feel I need a guide anymore. I feel like I can just do it whenever. I can just be laying in bed and tune in to whatever I really want to know. It's kind of like Edgar Cayce. He was a famous psychic back in like the early 1900s, I believe, and he used to kind of drift off and visit what did he call it, I forgot, he had this name for it, like the Hall of Knowledge or something like that, where he could basically come up with any answer he wanted to, and he did. And there's books and books of his miracles he performed on people. It's very well documented. In fact, he had a stenographer that literally documented every single session, and these people would come in with these like complex problems about their something about their knee, and he would come back and he'd spit out this like detailed medical evaluation for them that only a doctor would be able to do, but he's no doctor. And then as far as other situations, it would kind of go down that way too, where he'd come back with information that there's no way he could have possibly just known. No one can just know that much in this life, But I realized that it's that easy of just tuning in to whatever you really want to know. And as long as you can let go enough, it can come to you. And I believe it'll come to people in very different ways. It came to me in like foggy images, but more so a sensing of energies and emotions. That's how I take it. Some people might get very clear images and not so much emotion, or vice versa. But I just wanted to share my experience. It's a profound thing to go through, it's I was not so skeptical because I'm a believer. I've experienced a lot of different things in my life that have made me aware of the fact that there's more to existence than our current physical incarnation here, and there are other non-physical entities and beings and things going on all around us that we just can't perceive with our very limited human consciousness. But this kind of solidified that in a much more tangible and real way, and it was highly beneficial to me because now I really can tune into my my extraterrestrial people, basically, because that's kind of where I think I spent most of my time. And then what ended up happening is I ended up having, like, I don't know, half a dozen, or at least that's what I saw, about a half a dozen preparatory lives to prepare me to go through the transition of being like on this different, totally foreign place to coming here into this physical incarnation to kind of help out and do my part in this fourth density upgrade that the planet and all the people are kind of transitioning through at this time. It's a very important time, it's a time of transformation and acceleration, and there's a role for people, other entities that are used to higher levels of love. Not in this sound in a better way or nothing like that. I'm not trying to be like cool about it, but that's, I think a lot of other beings are coming here to kind of just be an example because they have more of a closer connection and memory with those extraterrestrial lives that take place in a different vibration, and now they can come back and like long for it and like quickly sift through their human issues to reconnect and bring through those energies for other people to witness and experience and see examples of, so they can do the same. That's the point of this. Everyone can do this, man. Everybody. And there's just a lot of beings now on the planet that are showing that and demonstrating that by going through their own trials and tribulations and overcoming them, and then allowing that light that we all are to shine through them. But anyway, some of the negative sides of that being in my position, it's been very hard. I've always felt alien to people. I felt like it was hard to connect with others. I just felt very different. It was very hard for me to kind of understand how people could be so cruel and hateful and senseless, and all with the wars and the murders and the negativity. It's something that I didn't experience at all in this alien life. Those types of deep degrees of negativity just were not present there, and I think I spent most of my time there. So to come here was a freaking shock. So that's why I had those other lives. But anyway, I just thought I would share my experience. I know people in general, some of you anyway, are starting to become more open to these sorts of this information. And I'm not the only one saying these things. There's millions of people who are having very similar messages. And again, it's to help wake people up. And everyone has the choice now to wake up consciously to who they really are. And some will choose to not. They will choose to kind of go on and experience these more limited human types of lives, and there's nothing right or wrong about it at all. It's all a game. It's all a choice. It's all a matter of perspective and a matter of individual choice. And we all learn lessons. We all have our own path and purpose, and they are all valid. And we are all entitled to go about our path as we see fit. And the people who I'm just speaking of, they're probably not going to ever watch a video like this. The people who are watching this are probably people who are also on a path. And that's part of my role, is to help you guys along your path, because I've been on it quite a while and I've gone through a lot of the stages that I see now people are just starting to go through, and it excites me and it brings me joy to kind of help out. And that's kind of why I had all these other I had a lot of fucked up experiences in my previous lives. Most of them were very negative and very traumatic, but they've allowed me to kind of integrate here and do my thing. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope if you have been on the fence of perhaps trying a past life regressionist, that you might be inspired to give it a try, because it might be relevant for you. Again, for me it meant the quickest and most profound healings I've ever experienced in such a short time ever in my entire life here. So it's been very beneficial to me, and I think it would be for many of you if you feel guided to do that. So with that, I'll close, and I'll talk more about these things later on, but I thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like the YouTube channel. or the video rather, because it'll help me reach other people. Because there's a lot of people who will be inspired and helped by this, and I want to reach them. And the only way to do that is to grow my channel so it starts to rank a little bit higher. Okay, so please like the video if you liked it, because you're going to help other people in your shoes get the same upliftment. Okay, and I'm just one of a million people doing this. I'm not special. Anyone can do this. Everyone has their own way of sharing and helping others, and this is just my little role here. So I just want to make that clear. Peace.